Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day? Ain't it a great day?
Hello everyone, my name is Dean. Let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track the rise of Bitcoin as a proxy for the cryptocurrency markets at large. Today is August 10th, 2025, and this is it. Here we go. The volatility has come into the market. I'm expecting a move either way. You all know my bias. If you watch my work, if you watched any video in the past month, you know what I'm expecting. And I believe that the liquidity of the traditional markets comes into play now that we're at pre-market open, and crypto will respond. The weekend was for consolidation, and we're going to have a look at that. We're also going to have a look at the likely direction that the volatility will take. And if all that sounds interesting to you, then watch until the very end. Hope everyone's having a great day. Let's start with Bitcoin on the 4-hourly time frame. So we're looking here at a move that went into resistance. Now, we were talking about this being a midline of this 2-week channel, and that you dumped down here, but then you came back up correctively, and it was likely a flat correction. All that's still true. Two things. Now, this midline was clearly not enough to completely arrest any upwards momentum. Doesn't mean it wasn't an actual midline, but keep it in perspective. You're just dealing with a 2-week midline, not a 2-year midline. Okay? So we did have some intermittent resistance at that level, but we came up above it. If you read price action, you understand that this past weekend nothing happened except consolidation. It's up and to the right. That's true, but it's very ever so slightly up and to the right. All in all, this is a channel of consolidation. So let's drop down into the hourly time frame and have a look. So on the hourly time frame, you can see it a little more clearly. This weekend, Bitcoin hit its head on this midline or this resistance level. It doesn't matter if you believe it's a viable midline, but there was resistance. You had what we called a double top, right? Which typically break down. This one did not break down. It broke up above, but it's still within the greater resistance of this channel. Very important. It would be very different, and I would say, and I guess admit that this was up into the right price action had this resistance been broken. But given that price is still within the boundaries of the larger resistance, we can say that this is nothing but consolidation. And the past 48 hours, 50 whatever, the past weekend, 60 hours, 48 hours to 60 hours have been consolidation. Now, the trick is, what kind of consolidation are we looking at? Are we looking at accumulation, or are we looking at distribution? It can't be anything else. Obviously, you can talk about reaccumulation and redistribution, but I'm just saying, is it a consolidation for the price to go up or down? That's what we have to determine as analysts and as traders, okay? So you all know my bias, you all know my high time frame bias, and I'm not going to bore you with that. If you're interested in sort of my high time frame bias, just watch previous videos. I talk about it ad nauseum. I will still defer to my higher time frame analysis, because my higher time frame analysis informs my lower time frame analysis and my lower time frame biases. And this is how I look at the market. And then on the lower time frame, my eye immediately sees this as an initial break of structure, a counter, secondary break of structure, secondary counter, tertiary break, tertiary counter. I'm seeing these pivots as this being the direction, given that the initial break always determines the ultimate direction of the consolidation. So if your initial break is down, you're ultimately going to go down. Okay, And I'm talking 2 degrees of AB basing and a pivot, or AB base theory, Elliott wave analysis. You can even look at this in terms of Wyckoff, but you know, my comfort, my expertise just lends my eye to always looking at pairs of corrective patterns a la Elliott wave. So that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I believe that the volatility indeed eventually breaks down, takes us there, and that if this is true, right, we have 3 pairs right here. This is part of the impulse taking you down and out of this weekend consolidation. That's what I'm seeing. If you jump on the 4-hourly time frame, you can see, you know, and I promise not to bring too much, you know, of the high time frame analysis into it, given that I've already done it quite a lot. But, you know, this is a resistance, and if this is a channel, this is another resistance. So all I'm saying is that there are plenty of resistances for Bitcoin to break through. You're still at resistance, even though this midline resistance has been overtaken. Like I said, the resistance of this consolidation is still intact, in the higher time frame resistance, or the medium time frame, let's call it a medium time frame resistance of the top of this channel still exists. So you're at resistance, consolidating at resistance. That informs my medium time frame bias. Any consolidation at resistance is more likely than not to break down. Doesn't mean that they never break out, but that's what I'm seeing. Okay, and on just using my indicator, right, my stochastic RSI momentum indicator, I'm seeing a bearish cross about to take place on the 4-hourly time frame here. My K and D lines are about to cross bearishly. So I feel that that volatility at traditional market open, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, basically, like, during weekends, you typically don't see big moves, because big moves in crypto even require the volatility of traditional markets, specifically the US dollar currency index. And so when the US dollar comes into play, you can have those big moves without creating any kind of CME gap or imbalance in the order books. So that's what that refers to when I say, oh, you know, it's likely going to need the volatility of the traditional markets and pre-market open, you know, Sunday evening, about in an hour from now or 30 minutes from now. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. That's what I'm seeing. Let's have a look at what altcoins are doing generally, and what the Bitcoin dominance chart is doing. Those will and should inform our bias and our understanding of what Bitcoin's likely to do. So let's go on with that. So altcoins, very interesting. Here, there's more of the same, okay? The weekend was mostly just this, okay? And again, you're at resistance. You're consolidating here right above resistance. So you peek your head up above resistance. But you can see here, past 20 days or so, you're under this resistance right here in altcoins, okay? Generally speaking. I know a lot of people, I mean, if you were to just go on social media and take the general temperature, people are extremely excited, and that makes sense because altcoins haven't done anything for years. And so even Ethereum, for instance, going up 27% in the past few days, I mean, it's blowing people's minds. But at the end of the day, altcoins in general, Ethereum, pretty much every altcoin is at resistance. So this represents the larger resistance that altcoins are at. And I mean, you can zoom out and see even more resistances, right? You're at resistance. You're at, so this right here, I would say the resistance you're at right now is, no, you're not at that resistance yet. Let's just say you're at this 20+ day resistance, okay? Because you're not really at any other resistance, but it is a 20-day resistance. So you do expect some sort of retracement, not a huge retracement in most altcoins. That's important. That's important, and we know that because there are some altcoins that are so close to support that this retracement down to this base, initiates their massively bullish momentum, whereas other altcoins are way off support. So yeah, you're not at any major resistances, just this 20 plus day resistance, and that makes sense. So generally altcoins are still bullish, but they are indeed at resistance. Very important to realize. So what has it been doing at resistance? Well, it's been putting in this easier to read, likely head and shoulders bullish reversal or bearish reversal pattern. So you have here what may be regarded as a left shoulder, a head, and now I think you're just forming a right shoulder. That is always bearish. More often than not, this is technical analysis. It's all probabilistic. There are no 100% certain scenarios, but forming, first of all, butting your head up against resistance is bearish, and being that you're forming a likely head and shoulders bearish reversal pattern at a level of resistance is also quite bearish. That's what I'm seeing in altcoins. So I do expect altcoins to retrace just as Bitcoin's likely to retrace. So altcoins are bearish to me, given this scenario, as is Bitcoin. Okay, and again, I do expect altcoins to retrace, but that retracement isn't crazy because I'm looking at, before their next massive support, just a 24-25% drop. Okay, and this is a massive support because you're coming down into what would be a 93-94 day support level if you drop 24-25% in altcoins. Okay, so that's altcoins. Now, what is Bitcoin dominance saying? I want to show this chart looks a little different than it has in previous days. One of the crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation clients reached out and said, hey, look, I feel like this channel is probably a better, more elegant depiction of what Bitcoin dominance has been doing, and I agree. So I've changed my chart, but it does line up with my original analysis, and I did have this channel sometime before, but I made it smaller to just focus on the more local price action here. But this works all the same. And here, it's just more compelling, and I like it better because you can see you're dealing with an 760-day channel, right? It's very clear Bitcoin dominance has been within the confines of this 760-day channel for 760 days, up and down, up and down, up and down. And towards the end, you hit the top, you found resistance, you broke down below, and now you're basically putting in a three-wave retest, A, B, C retest of the midline before breaking down. And that's precisely what we've been talking about, saying that the 64% level was your likely target for retracement for Bitcoin dominance. And the last time we did, or yesterday, yeah, it was because I'm daily at this point. Why am I daily? I'm daily at this point because the move that comes now is very consequential. It's very important for Bitcoin, very important for altcoins. It's extremely important. So I think it's worth tracking day in and day out. There's nothing insignificant about every aspect of this move because it's imminent, and I think people will understand just how important this move is, not just in Bitcoin, but in Ethereum and in every altcoin. Because in Bitcoin, like I've said, I believe it leads to a massive retracements, the likes of which people have never really anticipated, and most people aren't ready for. And then in altcoins, in most altcoins, it leads to a massive uptrend, the likes of which some people are prepared for, others aren't. And in some altcoins, it leads to a massive retracement, like Bitcoin, the likes of which they are also not prepared. So I think it's worth going daily because it's like, it's going to be big. What happens next, this move is massive. And it's been hundreds of days in the making. Okay. last we spoke, Bitcoin dominance was seemingly in a free fall. And I said, I wouldn't bank on it breaking down any further. We're at high time frame resistance, and I'm going to rest on, we're at high time frame support, and I'm going to rest on my understanding that support supports price action and resistance rejects it. And high time frame analyses are that much more reliable. And so I'm not betting against the high time frame. Remember, at that time, I was just looking at this channel right here, this part of the channel. And I said, even though this is simply, 246 days thereabouts, I'm not betting on Bitcoin dominance breaking down below, because that's not how you break a channel. And if this is support, I'm expecting support to come into play and for a bounce, and that's exactly what we got. You can see in the past day, the daily candle's going to close in about 2.5 hours. We've gotten support at this level. You shouldn't be surprised. That's how price action works, and that's how technical analysis works. That's why we even waste our time with all of this, because it's quite reliable insofar as support and resistance, they exhibit themselves left and right, up and down, and so we rely on it and we make predictions based off of it. So if you take even a larger look at the price action, again, 760 days, this is even more important support. And now that you're bouncing, do expect that bounce to go to the next logical resistance, which is the midline of the 760-day channel, which is confluent with my original read at approximately 64%. So do expect that 64% to be hit, because that's the next stop. There are no intermediate resistances for the price action between here and 64%, which represents the midline. So again, if Bitcoin dominance is likely to head up to 64% or head up in any way, then do expect Bitcoin to break down and altcoins to break down, because that's what Bitcoin dominance going up predominantly means. Okay, it means Bitcoin's breaking down, altcoins are breaking down a little more than Bitcoin. So that's kind of a corroboration of our read on Bitcoin's short to medium term price action, as well as what we can see in altcoins. So that's it. I'm expecting volatility, and let's have one last look before we leave. During the course of this stream, Bitcoin is kind of fighting for its life at this level, at resistance, and it seems to be tending downwards, as are most altcoins, right? Even the super bullish Ethereum, you can see it's printing a bearish reversal pattern. Okay, these, as you know, aren't 100%, but many times when you print a head and shoulders, you break down from it. So as bullish as Ethereum has been, and I would argue that's been the most bullish asset, at least on my watch list for the weekend, it is even printing a bearish reversal pattern. So I do expect the market to break down from here. Guys, that's all I've got. Hope this was helpful, useful. Like, share, and subscribe. If you got value, consider tipping me, Venmo, Litecoin, Cash App at the pinned comment below. And do consider my crypto portfolio mentorship and consultation service, where I do deep dives not just on Bitcoin, but on altcoins, and help you choose up to 5 altcoins that are likely to give you sustained gains during this alt season. And I help you determine levels where you can sell and buy back to maximize your portfolio gains. So that sign up is at the pinned comment below. And last but not least, our new exchange partner BTCC has a promotion exclusively with this channel, whereby if you deposit at least 500 USDT or the equivalent of 500 USDT, and you're a new user, and you make a first time deposit, that's what it is, first time deposit, you will get 10% cash back on that deposit. All you have to do is make a single trade. It could be a leverage trade, it could be a spot trade, it doesn't matter. Leave the amount that you deposited on the exchange for as long as it takes for you to get the promotion, the cashback offer, and they promise to have it done within 7 days. Once you get your money, you can do whatever you want. You can even close your account. So that you can sign up to at the pinned comment below. There's a link for that as well. Guys, take care. Have a great start to the week, and I'll see you later.
I vocalize, too deep to localize, even when I'm right on the surface. You act surprised how I work this, but I can't lie. Many a good alibi. I'll catch you later. Visions are vividly enhanced with emphasis and amethyst to develop morale advantages which help us manifest. Magnanimous, we body vitals like evangelists. So listen when you're dealing with people who be revealing premonitions with precision. At least that's what I'm aiming at for now. I speak the language of the world, meandering throughout the crowd. Used to feel safe to say anything, but now it's a risk. It's hard for me to let go when all I can do is reminisce. Gone like the wind, here's where I begin. Should I smile or should I grin what's happening?